I'm a podcast man. Welcome to Best Boys of Film Podcast, an amateur film study podcast for the average Joe, the buffest buffs, and the cringiest bingers. I'm drinking your milkshake. I'm your host, JP Plainview, and I'm joined by HW, and I'm joined by my brother, professional Hollywood videographer.
The third revelation. I am the third revelation. Oh man, what's going on, everybody? Kory the Story back with another awesome episode of the Best Boys podcast. HW, how you feeling today? How's the oil? How's the oil prices? Hello?
Well, he said I was HW, so.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said HW after.
No.
Oh, because he's. Oh my God, because he's. Oh my God.
I wasn't.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny. It took me a second there. I was like, wait.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you.
No, that's character.
Yeah, I was like, thought there was
acting.
thought there
Wow,
were technical difficulties.
You went full Daniel Day-Lewis, full method for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm into is going above and beyond. I gotta be my character at all times. So
I understand.
I like
That's how
Alf.
you get the best performance.
That's how Alf is also.
The alien?
Yeah, Alf is on the set. Alf is Alf at all times. Like everyone in the cast has to treat Alf like an alien, not a puppet. If you call him a puppet, he just it's like a slur to Alf.
Really? God.
Ironically, Alf is caught on video saying the N-word, so it all comes full circle.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right, but
Jeez.
this is not an Alf podcast, so
Yet.
we got movies to talk about, and we got some good, interesting ones. We got a movie that we've been saying that we are going to watch for a while now. Finally, between the holidays and how indie movies release, I don't know if this is considered an indie movie. It's got a budget-wise,
40
it's in
million
the range.
budget.
Yeah, budget-wise, I don't know, but
no, definitely not an indie movie with a $40 million budget.
Yeah. And,
Thomas Jane's Punisher had a $40 million budget.
Well, that wasn't exactly like a big blockbuster movie either. But
No,
it's
it
like
wasn't,
this is like a mid-budget movie.
Yeah.
Is that what you would say? You're much more familiar with those scales than me.
Yeah. This is like normally this is what your like comedy movie at. This is what your like something like Adventureland type like size movie where it's like or a little bit bigger than Adventureland.
I would say eventually it was a small movie.
Like I'm trying to think of like a good comedy that's
Old school.
She's old school. She's out of your league. Movies like that are usually in the 30 to 40.
She's out of here. Where are you pulling these? Why? These
Pittsburgh,
selections?
Baby. Shot in Pittsburgh.
Okay, understood. Okay. So,
but yeah,
we've been wanting to watch this movie for a long time, and we finally have. I'm a big fan of Paul Thomas Anderson. I've seen a bunch of his flicks in the last 2 years, and I haven't seen them all. I just realized that. I thought I saw more of his stuff than I have. I've seen like a little over half. So this is like I kind of like put him in a group with like Quentin Tarantino a bit, because I think they were like buds in the 90s or something, and they kind of came up around the same time. But I think his style is much different and much more different and much more mature. But yeah, so what's your relationship with the PTA?
This week is the first time I've watched any of his movies. These two movies. So this was I've always heard about Paul Thomas Anderson, and There Will Be Blood specifically. I've heard for like a decade to watch, and I've just never gotten around to it. But I'm now a fan. I've got PTAD because I'm ready to watch all of his films now, because they're just so good. I really like the style, I like what he does. and we'll talk about it in it, but you can feel a little bit of the story structure, kind of how he does his films between these two, even with them being almost 15 years apart. Um, so it's a new experience for me, but I'm on the board. I'm on board the oil train.
And
Let's
when
build
you're
the
really
pipe.
seeing like this is the widest range, like this is his
Mhm.
range, you know, like he's
Yeah.
got fun movies, and fun but still with substance, and then he's got like super fucking serious period piece, but
Mm.
still the style shines through. There Will Be Blood. I like I said, I saw it probably like 3 years ago for the first time, and it's a movie that just like help me dive into this kind of film wave that I've been on the past few years. It's like, oh my god, film is an amazing thing. It's like very much an entry point, and he's mainstream, of course, but he's kind of somebody that'll get you to look at his stuff, and then beyond that. I think he's on a David Fincher kind of a level, like very mainstream, but it has a bunch of like a really strong catalog, filmography, and is a great entry point for people to get into higher forms of film. And
Yeah, just for these two being the only thing I've seen though, the character development that he does, because these movies are for the most part just focused around like one, or in Licorice Pizza, two main people, and there's such a development throughout the movie, and you learn so much of how these characters are and their ins and outs, their quirks, and all these little things that are just picked up not from direct like spelling it out, but just throwing them into scenes, throwing them into just like events, and just letting them unfold as the characters naturally would, and it just works so well. So believable, especially with There Will Be Blood.
yes, There Will Be Blood is it. I've seen it now like 4 times, and I think that it is in my top 5 films of all time. Since we've done this podcast, I think my top 5 films of all time has been challenged a bit, and I want to reevaluate at some point. But I think before we started the podcast, this was it. It was like this and Blue Velvet. I know we're firmly in. I forgot about. I think The Matrix is what kind of had me reevaluate a little bit. I think I slept on it because it'd been so long. But yeah, digressing. Big fan of There Will Be Blood. So I was really excited for Licorice Pizza, and I knew with the '70s style that it seemed fun, and it really reminded me of Boogie Nights, which is I know the movie that a lot of people were introduced to Paul Thomas Anderson by, with Mark Wahlberg and Don Cheadle and Julianne Moore. He works with a lot of the same actors. Julianne Moore, Philip Seymour Hoffman, I know are in a lot of his films. This movie, Licorice Pizza, that we're starting with, stars Gary Valentine is the name of the character, played by Cooper Hoffman. I knew it, and his son. And I thought that was really interesting. And sometimes kids, like the spawn of really great actors, don't always work out. I know recently they had I didn't see this movie, but they did that Sopranos, like the Many Saints in Newark, and they had James Gandolfini's son playing Tony Soprano. And I don't know. I didn't see it, so I don't know anything about his performance. And I also think about Hugh from The Boys is the kid of Meg Ryan and Quaid. I forget which. Not the handsome Quaid.
Randy Quaid.
The handsome Quaid, not the crazy.
Not
Quaid.
Randy. Not Randy Quaid.
Which one's the handsome one?
Dennis Quaid?
Yeah, Dennis Quaid. I really was trying not to look this up. And then also there was the son of Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn, right? He's in he was in Overlord, and he was in the the new Captain America. He's the new Captain America in the Winter Soldier Falcon show. He's a U.S. agent. That's what he plays.
Yeah.
So there's been like this wave of kids. There's even another one. The Souvenir has Tilda Swinton's daughter, and she's really good. It's just like I think it's interesting that we're at a point. It's like sports where we're seeing a wave of children,
Dynasties.
children of actors we grew up with.
Yeah.
But
The
so
new Baldwin era.
I realize I'm rambling a little bit with because I was talking about the cast, and so I'll move on.
But now that, real quick though, rather you say that, I didn't know that Cooper Hoffman is Dennis, or not Dennis, is Philip Seymour Hoffman's kid, and I see it now so much. He looks very much like his dad.
Oh, you could see it in the speaking mannerisms. He the way he speaks, his voice and the way he speaks is very similar to Philip Seymour Hoffman. And just as like he has a kind of similar energy, but he's young, he's very youthful, and he's different at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
The other
interesting stuff.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say this is the last kind of side thing of just random people who are in this movie. Leonardo DiCaprio's dad is in this movie as the waterbed mattress salesman. Which is wild.
We're talking about the cast. I saw a bunch of people. There's a bunch of cameos, level of people in this movie.
I didn't know that that's what Leonardo DiCaprio's dad looks like, because they don't look anything alike, and it's so wild to me. Because he's just like this long-haired, soul-patch hippie-looking dude, and then you got Leo, who is like formerly, super fit-looking, handsome guy, and now he's just like the dad bod king of handsomeness.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting people that pop up throughout the film. The other star of the film is Alana Haim, I think is the proper pronunciation. I think a lot of people say Haim because of Kory Haim, but she's of the band Haim, and her sisters are also in the film, and her parents actually play her real parents, and I thought that was super interesting. But she is awesome. She's great on camera. She's great. She's a great energy. I think that's the big breakout of this film is Alana Haim should be acting more.
For sure. I honestly, arguably the best part of the film.
Yeah, she kind of not. I don't say she carries it because it is like I do think Cooper Hoffman was very good as well. And like he really for the character that he was playing. But she's just like, she's so dope, and she's a really strong character, and she drives really well. And they they say it multiple times, like, "Wow, you're really good at driving."
They had to set it up for that big hill scene after Bradley Cooper's house.
Yes. Bradley Cooper's in for a little while. Sean Penn's in for a little while. Tom Waits, Benny Safdie of the Safdie brothers. There's a
wild cast.
John C. Reilly was a guy playing Herman Munster.
On a almost off-screen cameo. It's so far to the right of frame in the background.
It's out of focus too. Like I don't think you're supposed to be able to obviously tell it's him, but the voice—he's such an iconic voice.
Herman Munster. We're not up yet.
Maya Rudolph had a very, very small part. I think it's that kind of stuff is interesting. It kind of I know I've been bringing up the Matrix Resurrections every week, but I thought it's kind of reminded me how Christina Ricci literally had like one line in one shot in all of the Matrix Resurrections. I wonder if that sequence was longer and they cut it down, like the boardroom shit. But yeah, Licorice Pizza. What did you think about it?
I thought it was really good. I think a lot of this movie has so much that I like about it, and the only things I don't like are just kind of towards the ending of the movie, just because of the context of the characters, and it feels weird because of the age gap, and it's a love story between the two. But that aside, though, this movie is very fun, and I think it's a really good watch. It's a little long. I think we'll talk about that in a little bit here, but overall it's fun. It's a good ride. I definitely think it's worth the watch.
I think
on how you feel about the character story choices towards the end.
I think that talking about the pros is to start is good because there's a lot to like about this movie, especially if you're into his style. However, just to break spoil this, not about the plot, but how I feel about it is I do consider this one of the weaker PTA movies I've seen. If it's in the lane of of Boogie Nights, maybe just because it's 70s, and it's fun, and but I would consider it's more mature in ways, but also a little messy in others. But just starting off, like, the performances are great. We talked about that. The casting is interesting and great. There's a lot of interesting plays with structure. And that's something that I've noticed in multiple PTA films is you think the movie's going to end, and then there's this like extended almost extended ending or extended epilogue feeling thing. Like the act structure is there, but it's it's shorter and longer than you're almost used to. This movie definitely feels like that a lot. We'll talk about my example with that, and There Will Be Blood later. But and like so there's a thing with that pacing. Like the first probably hour of the movie, I was like having a ton of fun, just laughing out loud constantly in the theater, obnoxiously maybe to my partner's opinion, but yeah, it was a good time. I really liked. There's a lot of good jokes. There was a lot of uncomfortable cringe kind of stuff, and like, oh my god, I kept like gasping at things that people would say or do, and Gary and Alana are both really bold, so they are just like going for shit. I am not that kind of person, that can just walk up to somebody and try to sell them something, or walk up to a girl and start spitting game. Not even like obnoxiously, just even trying to do that in any way is just not my style. And these people are very bold, and Gary is like it's kind of like an adult, not an adult in a child's body, but he's very much adapted. He's grown. He's mature past his age, and that's kind of a theme of the movie, and that's why the main plot is Gary is a 15-year-old that wants to date Alana, who's a 25-year-old. He's a child actor. He has money, and he runs businesses and shit. And his mom works for him, and it's this weird. He has a lot of independence, but with that maturity and independence, though, it exposes the ways that I think that he still has to grow in.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can see that with all of the different jealousy scenes in this. You can see that with just the he's kind of, because of the child acting stuff and the money, he kind of, you can tell, has just kind of done whatever he's wanted and gotten whatever he's wanted. And in the times whenever there's things that like aren't going his way, it's immediate like kind of non-understanding, like anger and stuff. Like the when they talk about the oil crisis happening, and he's like he didn't know vinyl's made from oil, and then that whole thing is like gonna ruin the business. He's like not taking in on, but it's a big deal because like, what do you mean? I just buy my stuff and we sell it. There's no outside force that can stop me from what I want to do. And then he just like takes it out on Alana. And stuff, because she's calling him out on his immaturity of just I think she says that the whole world doesn't revolve around you, and he's like, yes it does, because his whole world up to that point has, and he doesn't have like the concept of other people or other things and stuff like that.
He's used to being in charge he's the leader of his friend gang. He gets what he wants generally, but he's capable. Like, it is demonstrated that he is capable, and very, he's good at talking. He's polite. As much as it's established that he's not a good guy, at least for most of the movie. But he's very not like, he's like good boy, quote unquote, energy. I would like, he's polite when he speaks, and he's articulate, and he uses fancy adult words. She like points it out at one point, like, swiftly, who talks like that? Like, what kid talks like this? But
I mean, he also has just like the 15-year-old early teenager thing of just like following the compass of his dick through the whole movie, which
So
also adds to
that
it.
is something that I think is a main thing, and it's something that me and Riss have talked about a lot. We talked about I was over at your house last night. We talked about it a bit, and it is it's there's a lot to be uncomfortable about, and I think this movie wants to make you feel uncomfortable about things, but it's not trying to say what's right or wrong. Like I think there's like less of message here and more just these are elements of reality. I don't know about you, but I've been in a situation kind of like this, like pining after a woman that's too old. And it feels it felt very real. It felt like something that could happen. Not the stuff with him being a child actor. If I removed that, I could see this happening. The ending is where that kind of gets muddled up for me, the reality part of it. But I did feel like in those moments between the two, that there's chemistry and like the flirting and the jealousy and whatnot. It felt very real, messy and complicated, uncomfortable. Not I don't approve. I still don't approve of the relationship in the end. We haven't talked about what happens in the end, but I don't approve of it. But it is what it is, and I think that's what this movie's kind of saying a little bit. And the stuff that you brought up that kind of sparking this is the sexual and emotional immaturity of Gary. And I mentioned this earlier, but it is demonstrated that he is, even if he's a good kid, a good boy, like around this time, it's just like, how can I make sexual things happen?
How can I get hand jobs?
And in this time, that priority goes over, respecting people's feelings. Using people, maybe like trying to manipulate somebody into a relationship just for that, and then not being in a relationship. I know that was very common around that age in my world, for others. And there's this toxic male behavior, heterosexual male behaviors at that time. And you're kind of, and I was talking about this with Riss, and it's not good. And like in this time there was much less education on those things than there is today, and we're just he's figuring these things out, and he's bad. These behaviors are bad, and I think there is some kind of development throughout the film, that he's like figured out that he like about love. He's learning about real love and real relationships, adult relationships, beyond sex and whatnot. But that is like his main drive. I think the reason he walks up to Alana is because he wants to have sex with her. It has nothing to do with, and he thinks that she's attractive and she's older, and whatever, and he's I don't know, but it's complicated, and I'm not an expert enough to explain all this stuff. And I think there are going to be people out there that are maybe rightfully uncomfortable by some of these things, whether from their own trauma or from just Riss brought up something about like it using sexual assault as character development for a male is I guess it's a trope in media, and it's bad. It's not a good standard to set for, like, it uses like the woman as a vehicle for that development, their trauma as a vehicle for the development. And like obviously he didn't do that, he hesitated in that moment, but she was saying that it kind of harkens to that, and I thought that was an interesting perspective. And that's when I brought up my thing about he's the sexual and emotional immaturity and figuring these things out, and it felt very real and visceral to me. And it reminded me of those days when I was that age, and I wasn't rich or anything, but you had friends that had bad behaviors, and they made it seem like that was just how things were, and you didn't know, you were learning as you went. And I think there's conversations that we have today that we did not have even when I was a kid in the 90s and early in the 2000s, and I think that's something I thought about a lot after the film.
Yeah, a lot of this movie I have to chalk up to just of the time, like you said, with just like lack of education on certain things, and just probably just a lack of less of caring about that kind of stuff. But I was curious to ask you, do you think the movie still works with the same like plot lines, messaging, themes, and all that if they would have just made Gary 17, where it's like legal technically, but he's still a kid? Do you think that would have
I
made
think it's
things
less
worse?
dangerous. I think
Or
it's less dangerous. I think them being this far apart means it's like out of the question. Like this is an
Mhm.
impossible relationship.
Yeah,
And
okay.
like them ending up together, and we're now gonna just say it. They end up together in the end. Um,
And it's
it-
very weird.
it's very weird, and I don't know how I feel about the end, but it seems like this can't happen. So
Yeah.
it's not a possibility. So you're just going, and I think if this was an older film, I don't think it would have ended up this way. That they would have ended up together. It is uncomfortable that they end up
Mhm.
together. Still to me, even though
Yeah,
like
like
we watched this whole love story and we know that they're in love with each other, it didn't feel satisfying. It didn't feel right to me in the end.
mhm.
But there is real
Yeah, it's like not earned. If that
It's
makes
like
sense.
there's real
Like,
chemistry, and they gave us these moments, and I know that they love each other. It's
see, I
just
don't. I think it's just it's a toxic thing from the two of them where is she's someone who very much enjoys the validation of like being needed and doing like especially after doing good work. Like when he goes to walk out after the oil fight, and she's just like, "Oh, Gary, come on, I'll drive you. It's no big deal," or whatever. Meanwhile, it's a 15-year-old kid. She's like kind of falling apart for right in there. And then the I feel like in the end it's just kind of like fast forward, it's like what if like in the off chance that he were to like or not off chance, but like he goes on another like travel job or whatever, he's immediately just going to fall in love with the next pretty girl he
yeah.
sees.
I
And
mean, it
it's like,
happens. Yeah, it happens multiple times. There's a
yeah, so
period.
it's like
The whole middle part of the film is like one of them talking to another person and the other one getting jealous, the other one talking to another person and the other one getting jealous, and then
Yeah.
it's like that's the whole middle of the film is like this back and forth, this toxic cycle of like sexual
Yeah.
tension and jealousy, and
And so
and
to
it's
me,
like
the ending just sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off,
yeah,
but so to
yeah.
me, when you have the when you have like in the beginning he tells the little brother, I'm gonna marry this girl one day, and then at the end of the movie he's trying, this is Alana Valentine or whatever. Like it's all bullshit to me because of the entire middle is to paint this guy as he's just thinking with his dick.
Well, they have this
And
weird, and I think it's also important to mention the power dynamics at play here. They
yeah.
both have. This is like I think I talked about how this felt real in terms of the younger boy pining after an older girl, blah blah blah. But what makes this different is they both have power over each other. Obviously, she
Mhm.
has power being older, more mature, blah
She
blah
can
blah.
drive.
She can drive. She's the the unattainable thing. He's chasing her sexually, etc. She's withholding those things, obviously, because rightfully so. And and for the other side, she's working for him now. She is using him for social climbing. Now, she started out taking pictures of children, and he mentions this in the movie. And by the end, she's working for a guy running for mayor, and she's like really becoming a professional and growing as a person. Like her character has definitely developed and matured as well. She was kind of stuck in this late now adolescence. She still lives at home with her family, and she's in her mid-20s, and she doesn't know what she's doing with her life and stuff, and she kind of finds her passion through this journey, and doing all this business shit with Gary. She whatever. I don't know if Riss brought up something about like she's kind of like a social climber. And there's opportunities towards the end, like when the councilman calls her and asks her for a drink, that she's like immediately drops what she's doing to go.
Yeah,
and,
like she was like ready to pine all over the coworker who's been very respectful. Like, yeah, you've been doing great here. Like, I'm so happy you came
yeah, I
aboard
thought
and
that
all
they were
that
gonna
stuff.
end up together.
Yeah, and it would make sense. And then as soon as Wax calls, she's like, fuck you, dog. I got a bigger fish to fry. And then in the end, just goes back to the 15-year-old who just by the time he's 18 is going to be a different person. And then by the time he's 24 is going to be an even different person. So
Yes.
it's like,
I don't
doesn't
think
make sense.
I don't know how I like they end up together, in the end. Like I
Yeah.
can't imagine in the epilogue of this story that they end up together.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense unless it just it's like the Dane Cook, like I left my CDs in his truck type of thing, where you're giving yourself an excuse to just stay attached to this person.
Oh my god, you made a
for some
Dane Cook.
reason.
You just made it.
I
I
always
know
just think
exactly
back
what
to
you're
that one.
talking about. I know it's and honestly, a lot of people listen to that shit. So millennials probably know the reference. It's just hilarious. It is where Dane Cook, baby.
That was the first one I thought.
He's alive in 2022. I'm sure.
But you know what I mean, though.
I'm sure
like,
he could use the publicity.
Yeah. Oh god, yeah. No, he's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I heard he's a real big piece of shit.
Yeah.
But
you get what I'm saying though about that. Like,
yes, yeah.
I feel like
they're gonna be stuck together and like yo-yoing back and
yeah,
forth.
just
I don't think that'll happen. Like you said, he's gonna change and he's gonna realize things, and she's gonna change and whatever. It'll end up bad. I don't feel like it's gonna be happily ever after, considering how young they both are, but he is especially.
for sure.
So then, all right, let's talk about. There are two specific sequences of the film that are kind of they feel like offshoots. This movie reminded me of two things stylistically. One was Wes Anderson films, because you had a lot of children doing adult things, talking to each other like adults, and it's fun and it's 70s, and just the vibe is very, very, very much Wes Anderson with all the kids and their schemes, their business schemes. The other thing this movie reminded me a lot also of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it's a period piece, it's long as shit, and it's not quite as meandering as that movie can feel. I like that movie, but it has like these diversions in the plot that don't really build on the plot in any way, and they just kind of like this fun wacky scene, and then we go back to the story. It's like this little side break. You know what I mean? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I was gonna say this for sure feels like a lower budget Once Upon a Time in Hollywood aesthetically, and how they cut it, and like how you were saying, the whole second act we were talking about last night, it just feels unfocused. Is what I said. Where it, I will say this movie as a whole is a lot more focused, I would say, than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But that middle section, there's not enough until Bradley Cooper comes essentially towards the end of the second act. It's hard to. It starts to get, kind of dry and boring, and it's just I feel like I'm watching the same.
I mean, you talk the Sean Penn scene is before that, and the Sean Penn scene I would argue
that feels like it's so long.
See, I thought it was about the same to me as the Bradley Cooper stuff. Like they're like I was equally interested in them, but I just kept realizing that they're long and we still have to finish the story. So like these two scenes, I loved both of them. The Tom Waits. Sean Penn talking to each other shit, I was dying. Sean Penn is just speaking in riddles and speaking nothingness. Like he's like talking like I know what it is, but it is what it is. You know what it is. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
And then
he
Tom
keeps
Waits
talking about losing people in Vietnam or something.
Before that, and then Tom Waits is just growling back at him. and and then Sean Penn's just saying nothing, and Alana's like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. And I was just like, I don't know either, because they're saying nothing. And then you have the scene after with Sean Penn telling her Korea war stories. And she's like, first he's saying lines about random ass shit. And you don't know. And she's like, are you saying lines? And he doesn't reply and doesn't say anything. And then she's like, then he's telling a story about Korea, and she's just mesmerized by it. And he's talking about like this, it's how he's having a war flashback. And then we a few minutes later,
he calls the director over.
Tom Waits like gathers everybody and is like, He's like, we're gonna reenact the scene from the bridge of Tucson, or the bridges of Tucson, and that was the place that Sean Penn was talking about in his story, and then it reveals that this was all bullshit lines, and then they try to reenact a motorcycle jump from the movie, and it's ridiculous and long, and silly, but I really liked it.
Yeah, it was really funny. It just started to drag on a little bit for me when from the time where he just starts rambling about the war stuff until the motorcycle thing. Because once I realized like he's not responding to anything she's saying, and she's literally just there to be some arm candy for him, and it just kind of is like off the wall. I kind of like fell out, especially when I got to the golf course part, because then you see Gary there. And before at the tail of cock, before they go to the golf course, Gary shows up with his friends, these two girls and his one friend Kirk, and then it's just the Gary and Lana just fucking glaring back and forth at each other a bunch. I don't know, it dragged a little for me, but I loved like the opening of Sean Penn at the thing with the director was really funny.
I wanted to say also Alana's first film audition was very reminiscent of Mulholland Drive to me. The audition scene with the audition scene in Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
Did you know what I'm talking about though? Did you think?
I think I do. It's been a few years since I've seen it.
When Naomi Watts auditions for a movie and there's an old actor guy playing with her and she gets real into it.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
yeah. No, exactly. I remember exactly what you're talking about. Yes, and that's what it 100% feels like that. But at the same time, it also just felt like Sean Penn and the director just like didn't care what she was. Well, more Sean Penn than the director didn't care what she was saying. He was just like, "She's hot," and let's go get a drink after.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the audition was all right. It was just that she was lying about all her skills.
Yeah. I just meant like Sean Penn's reaction to the audition versus the director in the room, where he was like, "Oh yeah, this is great," because it was good. But
Sean Penn kept calling her the name of the character the whole night.
Rainbow.
He kept treating her like she was the character. That's why
I chalked it up to him being sloshed from like the thing on
and not knowing her real name.
Yeah, just being fucked up the entire time. Like, yeah, she really is Rainbow.
But she had to have been good at it too. He had to have liked her performance. I feel like to have felt that way.
For sure.
But yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I really liked the Sean Penn scene, and I thought it was really funny. But then I thought the Bradley Cooper scene, I thought there was gonna be more to it. I thought it was gonna be a bigger part of the film. There's stuff in the trailer. I hate when this happens, but there's stuff in the trailer of Bradley Cooper that did not make it in the film. The one shot of him smashing headlights with crowbars and like doing this like ninja shit. It was in the credits at the end, but it wasn't actually in the movie. I kind of was more disappointed. I loved Bradley Cooper's part, and it was really fucking funny. And this is probably the funniest thing he's done outside of Rocket. And I loved all that, but then it just like this didn't mean anything in the end. And it was the movie. I think with the Sean Penn thing, it was obvious this was not really. This didn't build on anything. It was just this fun diversion. But then I thought the Bradley Cooper thing was actually going to be like the big climax of the movie, tension wise, and then it was gonna,
or at least set up a callback. Like the flooding of the house. Call back to that.
Yeah, I thought there was just gonna be more to that, and there was no payoff to any of it, and it felt weird. It felt unsatisfying. And I just wanted to know what he didn't react to any of the things that they did. We didn't get to see how he reacted. We just saw him going crazy at the gas station.
Like if he showed up at the pinball arcade at the end of the movie and just started wrecking shit, that would make sense. It would be hilarious.
And it's like, how do you not? And I said to Riss in the theater, I was like, it's Fat Bernie's Waterbeds and it's Fat Bernie's pinball thing, and it's the same building. Like if he really wanted to, he could figure it out and fuck him up, like he said he was going to.
Or he respects him from being from the streets.
So funny, so fucking funny. There's this really creepy scene where he's like hitting on Alana while they're driving, and it was a great character. Apparently based on a real guy, John Peters, I believe is the name of the person who was he was with Barbra Streisand at this time. And I guess he was like a film producer, and I didn't read much more about him, but all I got was that he's a piece of shit.
Apparently, I was reading it. Apparently, Paul Thomas Anderson got permission to make the character a lot more aggressive and violent, like from John Peters. I was reading.
Yeah, like make him like great. I can see that. I feel like in projects, I feel like I had video projects in school where we would make a character like based on a historical person way sillier and funnier and crazier than they actually were. But I like I said, I liked it, but I think it made me how it added to the unsatisfying feeling of the ending for me.
Yeah, as a non-payoff. I like while I was satisfied-ish with the ending because I kind of knew where it was going, from the beginning. It just had to it made sense that was going to happen, even if it doesn't make sense in reality. But I didn't get enough of a payoff from everything else in there. I felt like all the conflicts weren't nearly as big as they were set up to be in the end. Does that make sense?
Yes, I guess so. There was something that's why the ending felt weird. I'm ready to talk about the ending now. I didn't like how they were just running around for no reason. Why did the sisters tell Gary to go to her work if she wasn't there? So it just
go to her.
Yeah, it's very cliche. Go to her. I felt the same way about that. And then we had I really did. We did. I don't know if we mentioned that the Councilman was played by Benny Safdie, but I really thought he was good. He's a great actor. I always see the small things, but I always like him. Yeah, I like that too. It felt shoehorned in a little at the end, like kind of tacked on, but I really liked it. But after that, it kind of just like Lana's running to the pinball place, and Gary's running to the thing, and then she's running to see Gary, and they collide in front of the movie theater, and I don't know what that was supposed to mean, but just like I don't know, it was needlessly long in an already needlessly long movie, and
why I think the dinner scene with Safdie and Councilman Wax and his boyfriend and Alana, I feel like it's a little not shoehorned in because of how that whole thing goes down. I feel like it's another instance in the movie of her like being an opportunist essentially, and it not panning out the same. And I feel like her reaction to it is different than the other times.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like maybe she's realizing that she needs to stop trying to chase for things because nothing is what she thinks it's gonna be.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That actually is a really good point.
But I see what you're. It can feel shoehorned, I think, in an already what feels slightly long of a movie. Especially when you know where the movie's headed after they're like go to her and he's already looking for her. That's like we know what the setup is. It's not unless Gary's gonna walk in on her like hooking up with the councilman or the guy from the thing. 90% chance they're getting together.
Yeah, I didn't like you said, it didn't. The ending with them ending up together. I don't know if it didn't feel earned is the phrase I would use, but that's in the ballpark. It was not satisfying, and like maybe because it was cliche, it was cliche, like they had to end up together because it's a love story. But I feel like they could have still had a relationship, and not like ended up dating.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said,
I'm glad they didn't. I was gonna say I'm glad they didn't do a time skip of any kind in this work because it's kind of that would have been even. Hey, that's what I mean. Like if they would have been like, oh, he's 18 now, and now she's ready. They're both ready, mature enough for each other, or some shit. I'm glad they didn't do that.
That would have been lame.
Super lame.
It was God. Don't make this movie any longer. I think this movie would have been all right. I'm ready to wrap things up on this.
Okay.
Unless you got anything you want to say.
The only other thing I had to tell about was I looked up why it was named Licorice Pizza, and it's just named after a pizza joint from that era in Southern California that Paul Thomas Anderson knows.
Yeah, I thought it might be like kind of a nothing name. Or like
Yeah.
it's not a nothing name. It's
It's
just
like
referencing the
he's
era.
like yeah, it's like it reminded me of the time and the era of this, but it also fits the theme of the movie. So it was
Oh,
like,
we
all
didn't
right, I mean,
talk
that makes
about the
sense.
racist scenes.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah. There's two of them.
this is the one thing that a lot of people were talking about. I've been seeing. There are two scenes where there is a white man, and then I forget the name of the actor, but he's a comedic actor. I've seen him in a bunch of things, and he's a Japanese wife, and apparently they run a Japanese restaurant called Mikado, and Gary and his mom's PR company, they're one of their clients. And we have the scene where they're talking about the thing in the ad they're putting in a paper, and the white man is making a horrible racist accent when he's talking to the wife, and he's speaking English but putting an affected racist accent on it, and it is fucking horrible. Like it was like cringe laughing. That's what we were howling, but it was just because it was so awful to watch.
Yeah.
And then the wife speaks back in Japanese. In the first scene, we are meant to think that he understands her, and then there's a second scene later with a different wife, and he reveals that he pretends like he understands, but he does not understand. He does not speak Japanese and is just an asshole. Also, Gary doesn't notice that the second wife is a different person.
Yeah.
Thus establishing that Gary is also kind of racist.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah. Ugh. I think that the accent in English, I feel like it works because it's more of an insult to the white character.
Well, and it's
but
like supposed to be a commentary, I think, on the times and the
yeah.
just an example of racism. Like I don't think it's necessarily punching down, but it is using like the Japanese women as like a prop in this instance for the joke. But I don't think it's at the expense. You know, me and Riz talked about this too.
They never make any actual Japanese people or Asian people do anything that would be stereotypical characters. It's all just this idiot making an ass of himself.
Yeah, making an ass of himself. That's pretty much what it is. And you can imagine why his one wife is gone. He acted like he got rid of her, but I imagine there might be more to that.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, that being said, as a whole, what are you giving Licorice Pizza?
I'm tied between a 3 and a 3.5. I really liked a lot of the movie, but I really liked a lot of the movie, but it's just like the overall story stuff and the ending. I think I'm gonna go with a 3.
Wow, I from what you've talked about it, I did not think you were gonna be that low. I was debating on a 3.5 and a 4.
Oh wow!
Because I feel like there's a great movie in here.
For sure.
Like 4.5 plus, but it just is not.
Let me go back to 3. Let me go back to 3.5.
Yeah, don't let me talk you out of it.
No, because I do. There's so much to like about this, but the things that I don't like are big story things.
That's what I feel, and that's what I feel. I'll go with you. Since I was gonna say 4 and you were gonna say 3, I think both of us coming to 3.5 ends up working.
It's worth the watch.
Definitely, it's good. If you are a Paul Thomas Anderson fan, absolutely watch it. It's right. It's that style, but more. And it's good. But yeah, apparently it's bombing at the box office. It has it's his biggest budget ever for a movie. And,
really? Even more than There Will Be Blood? Wow.
There Will Be Blood was 25 million. Licorice Pizza was 40 million.
Wow. That's nuts. I get it though. When we saw it at AMC, it's under their artisan banner, which I feel like that scares regular movie people away.
We saw it at Waterworks, and it was in a smaller smaller theater. I think they reserve for indie stuff.
Yeah, we were 2 of 4 people in our theater watching.
It was pretty full in ours, but it was small. Like there was not a ton of seats. Less than 50, definitely less than 50 seats. Probably like in like the high 30s, maybe 35 seats in this place.
Oh, that would have felt pretty nice. And yeah, we went to the Waterfront just to go get dinner and watch it. And yeah, normal size theater, but there's 4 of us in the entire thing.
They have reclining seats.
Oh, that's right. The Waterworks is nice for that.
Yeah, it was too long. I don't know if we've highlighted that. A fact
Yeah.
about the
About
movie.
15 minutes off of the second act, and you got a much.
I think and I think you could have
breeze
chopped a
yourself.
few minutes off of each of those fun scenes. Honestly, I think the
Mhm.
Bradley Cooper stuff already was cut down.
Yeah.
That's what I was realizing later with seeing trailer footage in the credits. Is like this movie was probably longer.
I'm glad I didn't see the trailer for this though.
Trailer doesn't reveal a whole lot. I just noticed
Hmm.
that there was footage that isn't in the movie.
I just didn't know what to expect at all, other than the poster. That's the only thing I saw.
I knew about that it was about a age gap relationship. That's all.
I heard. Yeah, I had heard that from a buddy of mine who saw it. He didn't tell me anything about what the movie's about, other than it's a 15-year-old and a 25-year-old like dating.
Oh, last thing to mention. I know we're way over time on this, but Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead did the score. The score is mostly songs from the 70s, but he actually timed when the songs play. Like it was like he had that much control. Like he did all of the soundtrack cues and everything.
Nice.
I thought that was interesting. Obviously,
Yeah, that is cool.
Big Radiohead fan. All right, now let's move on to the big boy, the big boy that looms over us all. There will be blood.
Ooh.
What do you think about this?
Oh, this is a fantastic movie. This is so good. After you get out of the first like 15, 20 minutes, I feel like that intense music just doesn't stop for the rest of the film.
Yeah, it's like dread.
So
There's dread. Beautiful landscapes with with dreadful music.
Yeah, it's like all these like they're talking about these things and the oil drilling is happening. It seems all good, but in the background, this music is just powering through. Like this is all bad.
You definitely just said powering.
Powering through.
You definitely just said it real Pittsburgh.
Oh man, I've been back here too long.
I've noticed. I've been saying to Riss, I was like, I notice it comes out for me sometimes now. I think there was a period where everyone was talking with Yinzer accents when I was living in the city, ironically, because it was like fun and funny, and it like was like
now you do it.
Town pride, and then it slowly just became the way we talked, and I think that's kind of how it happens a little bit. Ironically, get an accent.
I'm very much someone who adopts the mannerisms of the people he's around, like when it comes to like words and accents. Stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know why
that's the thing. People, that's the way it is. But anyways, There Will Be Blood is fan-fucking-tastic. I think from beginning to end, this movie is enthralling.
Yeah, the ending is so powerful too. Like I did not see that coming at the end.
The ending is a little batshit fucking wild. I'm not gonna lie. Because I did not expect that. That's how the movie would end. This movie is very creative in how it is structured, and like that's what I was. We talked about the structure with Licorice Pizza, and that being interesting, but possibly not sure if it detracted or added to the film. This is what makes one of the things that make the film so fucking interesting. There's like chapters in this movie, like, and they're acts, but like the lengths of which are varying. Like we have this probably the first hour of the film is very much about Daniel Plainview is played by Daniel Day-Lewis, setting up a new oil drill at this town, and it's in California, and it's very much about his relationship with his son, and and them building this thing together. About a hour into the film. The film's very long, almost 2 hours and 40 minutes. And about an hour into the film, something happens to the son, and they become estranged. And the whole middle of the film becomes about Daniel and his long lost brother, and then his brother kind of replaces HW, his son, as his partner. And then something happens with that, and he's gone. And I feel like I'm realizing, just saying this all like out loud, is Daniel's relationships with other people. Daniel's a piece of shit, and we learn that throughout the film. He's a bully. He's selfish, very selfish and greedy. He wants no one else to succeed but him.
And any of the good things he does for other people are only to further himself.
So yes, it's all in service to himself. It's very much speaks to, the coal towns, in the Appalachian regions, where the company store or whatever. Like the company owns your house. They own the store that you buy your food from. They pay you. So it's just this infinite loop
Your own
of
economy.
you giving money to them in labor, free labor. You're basically a slave.
Yeah.
So there's vibes of that here. This movie is based on Oil, which is a book by Upton Sinclair. I don't know. I'm not familiar with the story specifically, so I don't know if it's just inspired loosely or if it's like this character's in that. But Daniel has he dubs a person like his successor, his partner, his ward, and that he's gonna like train them and what he does. And they're gonna work together. And that's he's kind of like he's asexual, and like that's what he wants in life. He doesn't need anyone else. Fuck everyone else, but I'll dub one person to be cool to. And
yeah, it's so wild for somebody who seems like he wants to be only by himself. He can't be alone, and when he is alone in the end of the movie, he's at his most miserable.
Yes, he's at his most. He's mean. He's grumpiest and most miserable when he's alone. But he pushes everyone away from him. He pushes. Something happens to HW. He pushes HW away. He finds out his brother is not his brother, and kills him. And then he makes his millions. And
I didn't think he was gonna kill the brother, to be honest, at that point. Like, because it happened so nonchalantly. It seemed like there was gonna be more of a thought, and then maybe a walk away and shoot. But it was just like maybe a second thought, and then the gun bang wasn't that loud. It was just very like.
Riss wasn't sure if he was shot or not at first, and then it was like, oh, he's dead.
I think it's made to just be that this is, for the perspective of Daniel, this is just an insignificant thing. Like,
yeah.
And it's done really well. It's
you don't pull one over on him. He's very defensive. He's very insecure, and he freaks out on people for nothing at points because he thinks he's being talked down to. He wants to be in charge. There's a moment earlier in the film where he tells this one guy about an area. Oh, go over to the east. That's where all it's at. If someone's gotta get it, I'd rather it be you. And I'm pretty sure he lies to that guy and tells him to go. Tells that guy to go somewhere that there's no oil.
Yeah,
because he's an asshole.
Well, east from Southern California is Texas, and Texas does have a shit ton of oil.
Mm-hmm.
So I assumed he was talking about Texas, but I honestly, by the end of this movie,
that was they were talking about the area that he was in. Like Standard Oil.
I thought you meant go east nationally,
No.
Okay, got it. Okay.
But yeah.
Either way, he was lying to the dude, probably.
Yes. I think it's confirmed, and it's just it's hard to. It's not obvious on the first watch through. We haven't mentioned Paul Dano yet. There's an interesting production notes about Paul Dano. This is easily the best Paul Dano role. He kills it, and I love his character of Eli Sunday. He also plays Paul Sunday. So how about this?
Yeah, I thought they were the same person, and he was just lying.
It confused me the first time I watched the movie, and once I read the production, it made more sense. So originally, Paul Dano was only supposed to play Paul Sunday. And
gotcha.
the actor who played Eli, it wasn't working out, and they had Paul step in one time, and Paul killed it. And Paul Thomas Anderson was like, "Fuck it, you got both parts," and gave him both parts, and just fired the original Eli Sunday actor.
That's nuts. He does such a good job. He as the zealot guy, And my favorite thing, honestly, Paul Dano does, and meanwhile, it's just him kind of shrieking in a high pitched voice. But it's when he comes up asking for the $5,000, and Eli just beats or not
Oh,
Eli,
Daniel
what's
beats
his
the
face
shit
just
out of
beats
him.
the shit out of him, and he's just like squealing like a high pitched shrill the entire time. I was like, the scene is so good, and like there's something about it. And yeah, and then the church thing when he's like pulling the spirit out of that lady's arthritis,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
shoving it out the door. So he does it so well. It's like it almost couldn't be cringe, but it's so
Yeah,
good.
yeah. When like and he slaps Daniel. Like there's the
Yeah.
middle of the film on this movie is like they're trying to one up each other, trying to like get one over on the other. They're big dicking each other, and you don't big dick
Mm,
Daniel Plainview because then he'll just like fucking crush you. He'll kill you, which is ultimately what happens at the end of the movie.
yeah.
Um,
That's
yeah,
nuts though. He never paid him the church the 5 grand. I
yeah,
figured
he's
that would have been pocket change to him.
yeah, I didn't understand that. I think I don't know if it's because he just didn't like him,
Yeah.
because of the old blessing shit. But yeah, I didn't understand why he didn't pay him, and I didn't understand why he beat him up the first time. But I realized it was just all
Mm,
power play,
yeah.
like big dog in him. Like you're just a
Because that like
fucking
once
punk.
yeah once he like could tell that Paul Dano was just trying to be the one in control. Like it very much seemed like all right, well this well's going to my town. I'm being a part of everything. And Daniel Day Lewis is like fuck you.
Yeah, you
And
aren't owed anything. Um,
yeah, except 5 grand,
well,
which
which you didn't even
for
get that apparently. Um,
yeah, which is 5 grand. I looked it up after the movie. 5 grand in 1911. It would have been like $140,000 today. So that's a lot of money.
yeah.
That so I'd be pissed if I was Paul Dano too. If I gave you all this land and you were supposed to give the church 5 grand.
Yeah. So the movie. So I wanted to talk about the length of the movie because this is a example of a fucking long ass movie that it earns every minute of it, and it does not
Mm,
wear on you in any way. You're just interested in this movie and how long, ever long it's gonna be, and I like you want more. You want more. Um, and I think I wanted to talk. I've been wanting to talk about this, and I think we've talked about it before. But I think there's been a trend in films to be over 2 hours,
mm,
and that because it's indie movies are usually long, and there's all these critically acclaimed movies that are long, and Marvel movies are long because they have a lot of shit to cram in, and
mm,
it works for them because they're infinite. It's a story that never ends.
yeah.
But I don't think it works for the average movie. Not every movie needs to be 2 hours and 15 minutes long, or 2 hours and 20 minutes long, 2.5 hours. Um, it is a trend I think that is starting to wear on me and wear on people,
Oh,
and
me for sure. Mm.
I can't. When I see over 2 hours now, I start to shudder, and it's too much. But this is a movie that is long as fuck that is great. Um,
Yeah, this feels like a 2 hour flat movie for being 240.
yeah,
The pacing is so well done. Like for being the fault on Licorice Pizza, being some second act pacing stuff. This is like perfection for a movie that's almost 3 hours long. Everything is tense. You never feel bored because there's
something else
shit that can go
happening.
down. Like
But
or
and like
just or the fear of other shit happening based on what's already happened. It's like you know what I
uh,
mean?
with the length, you're able to tell these long. Able to tell stories within stories. Like I was saying, it feels
Mm,
like chapters in a longer book, like the Henry chapter, and then it kind of just ends and moves on from that. And then even the ending is it's like an extended epilogue. That's what I was
yeah.
referring to earlier. It's like it feels like this ending could be shorter, but to have this time skip and then this really long, drawn out ending, I thought was super, super interesting. And we see him at his most unhinged, like this final moment of insanity that he's succumbed to in the end. And we find out what happens with Eli and everything. Like they're tied to each other since the beginning of the story, and um, I don't know. The ending is like what makes it, not makes it, but is a crucial piece to why this is a perfect film. I just said it, the P word.
Peace.
Perfect. And
Oh,
usually that
perfect.
tells
Oh.
what I'm gonna score it.
Oh wow. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah, the I was less like into the HW conversation with the interpreter, but the final
Well,
scene
just so we needed
when
to
they're in
know
the
what
in the
happened
bowling
with
alley.
that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I get, and of course he's gonna take it as like, yeah, you're going to a different country, but of course it's competition,
You're
and
on
that's
this
how
earth.
only how you're gonna see it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're
Um,
doing what I do on this earth, therefore you are my competition.
yeah, regardless of being my son, it's
Well, not even his
such a
son.
good villain.
That's
Yeah.
when we got the twist that
Oh,
HW
oh,
wasn't really his son.
I kept going back and forth on telling if he was fucking with him or not. It was so hard.
Oh
Like, is
no,
he
it's
saying
real.
you have none of me in
They
you
set it up in the
because you don't
beginning.
act? Yeah.
If you watch the very beginning, after there's a man that is tending to the baby after that guy gets killed in the
Mm,
mine, and
yeah.
it's alluded like it's ambiguous at first, but after that conversation, and like you look back at that scene, and it makes perfect sense that yeah, he just used
Yeah.
that kid as a prop. He might not even have like gave him anything in the end, as if he was gonna stop working for him,
Mhm.
like regardless, even if it didn't end up this way. He didn't
Yeah.
he did I don't think we've mentioned that HW there's an accident at the drill and he goes deaf. um and
And Daniel just ships him away because he doesn't want to deal with it.
yeah, doesn't know how to deal with it and realizes that it's not coming back, and then just ships him away.
And then
He
after the brother fiasco, he's like, "Well, I can't be alone again. I guess I'll bring HW back."
Oh, and I think that the movie does give plenty of hints that he genuinely cared about HW, but that he cares about himself more,
Yeah.
and like the oil more, and that was the priority. And ultimately, if HW's condition was going to take away from his business, then he can fuck off. Um,
Mm.
and HW does come back with the interpreter, but it's like because I think Daniel wants him to come back, but it's just still not the
Because he got
same.
lonely again,
Yeah, he got
and that's
lonely
the only other
after he
person.
did it after Henry died. Um,
Uh,
so yeah, there's just this movie is pretty fucking amazing. It's powerful and there's like there's innovative things about it, and like I said with the structure and whatnot, and it feels different. But these performances are fantastic. It really accomplishes what it's setting out to do. And I don't really have any critique at all. Not that anyone to critique this, but
uh, yeah, I don't either. It's so well done. It is. I dare I use the P word as well, because it is if not perfect, damn near. I wanted to say, and this is just something I feel like if you're a film person, you're obligated to bring it up. About this was shooting at the same location and time as the Coen brothers' No Country for Old Men. And I've seen that movie, and I always like had heard that like there was like tension between the two sets because of what was going on There Will Be Blood was affecting the No Country for Old Men shoot. And now I know why. The big oil rig explosion and all that black smoke they constantly had to keep in the air and the sky,
yeah.
like completely fucked all the beautiful landscape shots for the Coen brothers movie. And they're both big names, so it's like a who gets whatever. But ultimately, they shut down production for a little bit for like There Will Be Blood shut down production for a little bit so the Coens could do their thing at the location. But for two movies that shot at the same time and came out at the same time, it's nuts that they're and shot in the same place. It's nuts that they're both phenomenal, like 5-star movies.
5-star
Um,
man.
like just in their own right. And I was saying to you this yesterday, but this movie for being 2007, it looks older. It looks like it was shot in the early 2000s, to me at least. Even after watching the 4K version on Netflix,
Oh yeah, I don't think
and
that.
and I think it's very interesting that even because the 2000s have a weird thing of just what people were shooting on and with, and digital was really taking off, and you had a lot of different looks and stuff like that. And I always find it interesting that what different things you can get out of in the same time just
Oh,
based on like
I don't know if you
what
read
aesthetic
this.
people were going for.
But I just
What?
happened to be glancing that the film was shot using Panavision XL 35mm cameras outfitted primarily with a Panavision C series and high-speed anamorphic lenses.
This is true. This is exactly right.
Is that different than
um,
that? Like, can you explain to the viewers at home what? I guess it's what you're talking about
so
now, but what makes
it's
that
yeah,
different?
I mean, it's 35 millimeter film, and 35 millimeter film is has a completely different look depending on what film stock, how old the film stock is, all that
Mm,
stuff, and what you're using, and then also the lenses on top of it. The camera itself, when you're shooting film, is just a vessel for the film
yeah.
itself, so that's not really going to change too much. But the um, I don't remember what the I'm pretty sure they're also on 35 millimeter film for No Country for Old Men, but it's just different glass, different things. And I imagine for this movie being shot in the early 1900s, it was probably similar. Like Licorice Pizza, they shot on old 70s glass to match the aesthetic of the look of the time. I imagine for this, they shot on old ass lenses as well. Like those Panavision
Glasses
lenses
lenses.
what?
I was explaining that glass means lenses.
Oh, glasses lenses. Sorry. Um, is they're probably just using old stuff, and then the way they shot this movie, and I think why it gives it that old feel is the film is either intentionally or is intentionally overexposed and then brought down in post, and you can tell that with all the way that the highlights are in this film to keep the heat feeling and just kind of like the overall intensity feeling of it to me. Whereas like in No Country for Old Men, it's a lot more saturation and contrast in the highlights that give it a more modern look. But it's so good. Like it's
Yeah,
so
I
good
thought it
looking.
looked modern. I feel like the swimming scene in particular. I was like, man, it looks really lush, and like the landscapes and like the coloring maybe is a
Mhm.
little was a little muted for the landscapes because they're like a very brown. But like I just like the
Yeah.
water and the waves, like while he was floating and scowling at
Mhm.
Henry. I was like, man, this looks fucking good. Like the shot is
Yeah, it
fantastic, and just
mhm.
I guess it doesn't. I don't know if it speaks to what you're talking about, but I just thought about how beautiful and lush that looked to me.
It does, yeah. Both of we'll talk about this one maybe, but yeah, so much of the cinematography because that's what you're taking old stuff and adding new techniques, new modern day cinematographers and people who are up to date on shooting styles and stuff, and then pairing that with old stuff, and you get this awesome look to it. And I really like how they push the film negative in post to get the look that they have. The big thing that sold it for me was when they were doing laying down where
Yeah.
the pipe to the ocean was gonna be,
Mm-hmm.
and they had Daniel Day Lewis was in under all these like rows of trees, and you could see like all of the highlight spots blown out, super bright, but intentionally. To have this heavier contrast with the stuff in the shadow, even though like Daniel Day Lewis is still like properly exposed in the shadow. And that was like that what got me to like really pick up on like what about this look is giving it this look. And then throughout the rest of the film, it's just like, oh, it's just intentionally overexposed and brought down a little bit to give it this more. It's just to add to like the heat, I think, and to add to just more of the old feeling of it. Because it's a more common look for older films and stuff. But it looks super cool. Beautiful film, amazing film.
Um. So. Um. I wanted to talk about the ending just in a general sense because it really reminded me of Citizen Kane. The end, like the ending of Citizen Kane, where he's like alone in his giant ass mansion, like comically huge mansion in Citizen Kane.
Mm,
But very similar vibe as this, like that the room when adult HW comes in is like super
mm.
fucking long, and like it feels like they're close, but they're actually like they're not that close because the room is so big.
Yeah, they're
Um,
like 10 feet away still.
yeah, it reminded me a lot of Citizen Kane, where he's like success. He has success and all the money in the world, and he could build anything he wants, but he's unhappy, and his life is ultimately he's alone and ultimately a failure.
I like that the last scene takes place in that two-lane bowling alley because it adds some claustrophobia to that scene. Because there is nowhere to run, there is nowhere to
Yeah, he's like
go.
locked into this bowling alley.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's great also just like the scene starts in the end when like he wakes up from being like passed out drunk or whatever, and then he immediately it goes from him being barely awake to
Eating a
drinking
steak.
and eating old food to beating the shit out of Paul Dano all
Yeah,
within
well, it seemed
15
like
minutes.
he like he must have just been walking around with a plate of food, and I don't know. Me and Riss
And
were
just
debating
passed
if
out.
that was water in that jug or booze. I think it was water.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's drunk, passed out somewhere with whatever the food he had, and then he just because he's rich and he has this giant empty house, like he can just do whatever he wants. He loves
Yeah.
to sleep on the floor. We established that he doesn't sleep on a bed ever. So I guess he just sleeps wherever he's at, like an animal. And he wakes up, and but well, I was gonna say before that we see him shooting shit like random ass plates and shit in his house. Like he's like set up a shooting gallery and um just doing whatever the fuck he wants, making mess, don't care. And Paul Dano comes, he's wearing a suit, and it kind of implies that he must have been successful in whatever he's done. And then it's revealed that he was successful, but he lost all of his money in the stock market, and
This is like
he's
right before the Great Recession or the Great Depression hits.
yeah, I think that's yeah, it's part of that. The stock market crash, I assume they're alluding to, and he asks for Daniel for money, and like these, oh well, I'll give you we'll sell you the Bandy tract. You know that's, um, that's where there's oil under there that you want, and he's like, oh, I already sucked that shit out, and he explains it's like, drinking a milkshake with a really long straw, and then he kills him, and for
Yeah.
like no reason, for like really
Yeah,
no reason.
I didn't see it ending in that. Like I did not think that he was gonna get bludgeoned with a bowling pin.
It reminds
But
me exactly. I think it's. I never understood when he first beat his ass in the mud the first time. Like,
mm,
and I think it's just that, but he's gone. He's even more deranged. So it's like, what's further than
mm.
beating the shit out of him is just killing him.
Yeah, like Eli has just been under his skin his entire life, and they are related because his son married her, or his son married Eli's sister. So like they're linked now forever, and he just
I
hates so
forgot
much
about
hate for
that.
this guy, especially after like making him do the baptizing thing and just slapping the shit out of him during that. Like there's so much just I can only imagine there's just so much angst over the years that we don't get to see on screen that just like because when he's over, he's not upset or anything. He's just like, well, I'm finished to like his little servant guy to clean up and like no remorse. This dude's just fucking nuts.
Yeah, I imagine he goes to prison for this, but who knows? Since he's
Yeah,
so rich.
you're that rich and it's that early before like any kind of crazy forensics shit exists. Um, yeah, he's probably off scot free.
Um, but yeah, all right. Well, is there anything else major you want to talk about? There Will Be Blood.
Mm,
I did want to mention that Daniel's main assistant is played by Ciaran Hinds, who was the grandfather in Belfast.
oh, the guy
Yeah.
who plays Fletcher in this movie.
Is that his name? I don't know the character. I
I,
didn't know the character even had a name.
it was for
Fletcher
subtitles. The
Hamilton.
only reason why
Yeah,
not.
Fletcher
Yeah,
Hamilton. Yeah, that's the
the
grandfather from Belfast.
subtitles are the only reason I remember half a cast's name in a or half the characters' names in a movie,
I watch
especially
them.
because I feel like they don't say
We
them a lot.
always watch them, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. But other than that, Paul F. Tompkins was in the beginning, and he kind of had like a you didn't know it was him. You saw on the side of his face moment.
Who's,
The
who's Paul F. Tompkins?
comedian. Um,
Oh, really? That's
y-
cool.
but
I like.
that's about it. It's. I feel like you could talk about this. This is like one of those movies you could talk about forever, but like you're never gonna say anything that no one else has said. It's
Mm,
just like it. This movie is one of the an eternally hyped movie. It's I think some people say it is the best film of the 21st century. Um, I have no arguments for that against that. I have no
yeah, as of
problems with
now.
that. Um, and that Riss said that I think when we went to I went to watch it, she was just there, and she was at first like not engaged. She thought it was like a western or something,
Mhm.
and then figured it out. Like by the end of it, she's like, oh yeah, lives up to the hype, absolutely. Um,
I don't know. I don't know why, but going into this, I'd never seen a trailer. I'd seen a couple production pictures from it, or like from like screen grab, like lighting setup stuff. and no one someone told me it was like about oil, but for some reason I had this because of the time setting that this was going to be like something like Gangs of New York but with oil barons, and it's
Yeah,
not at
it's
all what
much
it is. It's
smaller
so
than
much
that.
smaller in a great way. It works so much in its favor
I've
for
been,
Vice 2 and
yeah, I forgot. Gangs of New York is the other movie with Daniel Day-Lewis that I've seen a ton of times, and he is awesome in that movie. He's probably that movie is. I wouldn't say mediocre. Like that movie. I think better than a lot of people do. But man, is he like carries that film. He's a badass.
I haven't seen it in ages.
Um, yeah, he plays Cuddy. He's the butcher. Um, but yeah, what are you giving? If that's all. Oh, I wanted to also mention that Johnny Greenwood did the music for this from Radiohead. The
For this
score.
movie as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
I
Look
think
at
it was.
him
It
go.
might have been the first one he did, if I recall.
Did he like start the trend of musicians changing from musician and going into movie
No,
scores?
that he didn't start that at all. Danny Elfman did that. Danny Elfman was
Oh.
from an '80s band, and Randy
Oh.
Newman. Randy Newman was a '60s singer-songwriter, and he did the music for Toy Story, Cars, and a million other movies.
Yeah,
Um,
I knew Randy Newman with Toy Story, but I just thought it was like a one-off or whatever.
Danny
But that's cool.
Elfman.
Danny Elfman, I didn't realize was in a band or anything.
Yeah,
I
he's
thought he was
from
just
Oingo
like a
Boingo.
composer.
That was it's. I've heard of Oingo Boingo, but you might not have.
I've heard of them, but I've never heard the music. Like I've heard the name before.
It's very '80s, very fucking '80s, but good. Um, I was trying to look up quickly soundtracks that Johnny Greenwood has done. Looks like he did Small Stuff before There Will Be Blood. That was the big one. Um, but all right.
What are you giving it?
What am I giving it? I'm giving it. I'm a 5-star man.
All right. Yeah, I too am giving it a 5. This might be my new favorite movie for a while.
This is definitely. I don't think it's the best movie of all time. Oh, I don't know enough to say that, but I definitely think it's the best movie of the 21st century. At least that I've seen. And
yeah, this is definitely my new favorite, at least for the time being. Like, if that makes sense. Like, I'm just about it right now. It's so good. It's so good. I could
yeah.
watch it again
I
easily.
mean, you probably will, because I think I watched it again shortly after the first time. Excuse me. There. Yeah, it's just a fantastic film, and Paul PTA as a whole, his whole catalog is good. I still haven't seen Punch Drunk Love. I know that's supposed to be awesome. But if you like this, see his other ones. Maybe one.
I forgot to mention earlier. I've seen parts of Boogie Nights. Like I've seen the scene where William H Macy goes in and shoots his wife at the party, and I've seen a couple.
That's at the end. That's at the right.
I've
That's
seen
not the
I've
very
seen
end,
that
but it's towards the end.
part, and I've seen I think some random scenes of with Mark Wahlberg, but never like anything crazy. I think it's just like him talking to John C. Reilly, maybe.
Yeah,
But
yeah, maybe one. I've been thinking about it. And I don't know. This is probably not something to discuss on the show, but I'd like to do some like retrospectives. In a period where we don't want to go to the movie theater. Maybe right now when it's Omicron's buck wild.
yeah,
That we just pick a director and try to go through their catalog, and two to three at a time, 1 to 3 at a time, and then until we're done, and then we move on to somebody else. But we can talk about that another day. Because I think certain movies we've watched is just like, man, I need to see more about from this guy. But we're watching so many other movies that I can't squeeze it in. Not even guy, gal, whatever. But all right, I think that's it for me. Let me see. Next week is the Tragedy of Macbeth out.
I don't know.
Yes. So next week we will be doing Tragedy of Macbeth from the Coen brothers, along with No Country for Old Men.
Oh, it's perfect. This is a perfect movie to do after this one.
That's what I figured. That was the plan. And then so I still want to do Red Rocket, and the Florida Project, but we're gonna have to wait until I think Red Rocket is on Vudu, so we can do that maybe the week after.
I love Voodoo.
The only other thing is if do you want to do Nightmare Alley,
The
the
Guillermo del Toro movie.
mm-hmm. It
I'm
might
100% down to watch that movie. It looks good.
Bradley Cooper's in it.
And so is Willem Dafoe. I mainly want to see it for Willem Dafoe.
It's still in theaters
Um,
now, but it might be gone. It's gonna be gone soon. So it's
hmm.
probably gonna be gone by the time we're ready to do it. But we might just
But
have to wait till it's on streaming.
I feel like that movie might come to streaming quicker because
It's
it's like this
bombing.
one also is being billed as an artisan film at AMC, and those usually mean it's like a smaller distribution thing, which usually goes to streaming quicker. I tell you what, I got comfortable with that HBO Max same day theater and
Yeah,
streaming.
yeah. I mean, it's part of the reason why a bunch of movies are fucking bombing right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that Licorice Pizza bombed, Nightmare Alley's bombed or bombing. Um, the obviously both Ridley Scott movies bombed. House of Gucci not as quite as badly. But yeah, it's hard out here for big budget critical films.
Literally the only thing that's made money I feel like that's come out this year is Spider-Man. Because everybody was like,
Dune.
"Fuck COVID." Oh, Dune did good at the box office.
Yeah, Dune. Dune made money.
Wow, I thought
And
because that was
and it was
a
on
Max
streaming
release.
too. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was on top of being HBO Max. So I think the production companies, whoever did it, fucking Warner Brothers, is very happy. It made it was budget was 165 million and it made almost 400 million.
Holy shit!
Yeah, and like
Damn, I mean, it
and
did come out in
HBO
a good
Max.
time with COVID too, with
I think that
like
helped.
things not being too bad
It was probably
before winter.
yeah, it was very bad. It was very good then. So I'm very excited about that. But all right, we're going on too long. But we gave them a little extra. So thank y'all for listening to Best Boys. Make sure you follow us on all the things. We're on Facebook and on all the streaming sites. Or everywhere you can get podcasts. Kory, make sure you watch Kory's recent short film, Rough Pants. It's all on YouTube, and it's really fucking dope. Kory, you got anything
Yeah,
else you want to plug?
that's pretty much it. Rough Pants, full steam. Please share it, watch it. Everybody likes it. They've seen it, so just enjoy it
I'm at
and tell a
Slob
friend.
Thomas on everything. Kory's at Kory with a story. And yeah, we'll catch you on the flip.
Peace, y'all.
Bye.